This video will be looking at China and its key part in the coming global conflict we know as World War III. China has come from a poor nation with very little populous prosperity. In the 60s it was a nation of farmers and peasants. Very much underdeveloped, with little in the way of modern infrastructure and services. Most of the populations lived of the land or sea, in humble dwellings and small towns. There was little money around, low wages and a generally poor standard of living. Things began to change in the 70s with huge cash injections from the Western globalists, which saw an unprecedented rise in economic growth and development. We will get into this in a future video. But for this video we will be looking at China's string of pearls policy, where they have established many naval bases around the Indian Ocean, Pacific and South China Sea, in an effort to blockade India, their arch-rival and past enemy. These events are the chess pieces being moved into place ahead of World War III. Let's take a look at China's territorial disputes.
One reason China's spectacular rise sometimes alarms its neighbours is that from the Himalayas to the sea, it claims territory it does not control. In the West, China's border dispute with India is more than a minor cartographic tiff. China claims an area of India that is twice the size of Switzerland, the state of Arunachal Pradesh. Further west, China occupies Indian-claimed territory next to Kashmir. In 1962, China won a brief war over the dispute. Now, however, a more immediately dangerous standoff is the one between China and Japan over disputed islands in the East China Sea, known as the Senkaku in Japan and the Diaoyu in China. The surrounding seas may be rich in oil and gas, which Japan says provoke China's interest. Japan says they've always been its territory. A new and much more dangerous phase of the dispute began in 2012 after Japan's government nationalised 3 of the islands by buying them from their private owner. Infuriated, China since then has been sending its ships and planes close to the islands, now challenging even Japan's claim to control them. Japan's ally America has confirmed that its security guarantee does cover the islands. It and Japan were especially provoked by China's unilateral announcement in November 2013 of an air defence identification zone covering the islands. The worry is less of a deliberate war than an accidental collision at sea or in the air might escalate. Similar fears cloud the disputes in the South China Sea, where the maritime claims in Southeast Asia are even more complex, and again, competition is made more intense by speculation about vast potential wealth in hydrocarbons. In May 2014, China moved a massive oil rig to drill for 2 months near the Paracel Islands, in waters claimed by Vietnam. China has an expanding navy and projects power from its submarine base on Hainan. To the south, China and Vietnam also claim the Spratly archipelago, as does Taiwan, whose claim in the sea mirrors China's. But the Philippines also has a substantial claim. Malaysia and even tiny Brunei have an interest too. In 1995, China evicted the Philippines from Mischief Reef, and in 2012 from Scarborough Shoal. The Philippines accuses China of salami-slicing tactics, stealthily expanding its presence in disputed waters. In March 2014, it tried to stop the Philippines from resupplying a small garrison it maintains on the Second Thomas Shoal. Since then, it has appeared to be building an airstrip on the Johnson South Reef. Apparently ignoring international law, China and Taiwan point to a map from the 1940s showing a big, U-shaped, 9-dashed line around the edge of the sea. All China's, they say. The Philippines, to China's fury, is challenging this at a UN tribunal. A huge chunk of global trade and almost 1/3 of seaborne crude oil passes through the South China Sea, so these uncertainties worry America as well as countries nearby. The status of Taiwan is also still unresolved. In practice, it has been independent since 1949, but China still insists that one day it must accept Chinese sovereignty. Polls suggest that few in Taiwan are in any hurry for that day to come. China has never renounced the use of force against Taiwan if necessary, and has hundreds of missiles on its coast trained on the island. No one is asking the Tibetans in China's west, or the largely Muslim Uyghurs of the neighbouring region of Xinjiang, whether they want to be part of China, but many of them certainly hanker after independence. That is one reason why China cannot show weakness on what it sees as issues of national sovereignty. Its expansionist dreams are haunted by separatist nightmares.
I'm Carrie Gracie. My guest today is a diplomat. Sha Zukang, Chinese ambassador to the United Nations. Might China's leaders talk about peaceful development? Why then is China building up its military forces so assertively?
China's military power or build-up military power is very much exaggerated. China is a huge country which, like any sovereign country, is entitled to national defense. And our military budget is very moderate, particularly in terms of per capita income. It's very, very low in the world.
And yet the American Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld says that China is spending more than the government acknowledges, that it's expanding its missile capabilities, developing advanced military technology, and he says, why pour all this money into the military at a time when China needs as much as it can for its economic development, at the same time as China faces no threat from any other country? That's
we don't need anyone to preach and teach us, and no one in the world is qualified to teach and preach China. And the United States, as far as the military business is concerned, U.S. is the least qualified guy to preach and teach China, because it has the biggest military arsenal in the world. It's the most advanced technology and science technology for their military build-up. It has the biggest military budget, yet this guy is telling us, China, you should stop. It's not in your interest. Okay, it's better for U.S. to shut up. Keep quiet. It's much, much better. China, the military build-up is not threatening anyone. It's for legitimate defense.
And back home, the Chinese threat is no longer confined to the remote heights in Ladakh. The Chinese Navy has been venturing into the Indian Ocean after having set up several strategic assets in the region. And now the string of pearls, as they are called, are ringing alarm bells in Delhi, where today top naval commanders are meeting to chalk out India's plans to counter the growing Chinese threat in the Indian Ocean.
They dared to enter our territory in Ladakh last month. And even though China may have withdrawn troops from the DBO sector, the Dragon remains aggressively defiant. On one hand, China talks of cooperation ahead of its Premier Lee's India visit.
要继续致力于边境问题的解决。在边境问题没有解决之前，双方要维护边境的和平和安宁。
On the other hand, the Dragon is aggressively staking claim in South China Sea, establishing key ports in Bangladesh and Myanmar. And it's something that Indian naval commanders will raise in the meeting today. In the past, China has provoked India in the South China Sea, and it's something that New Delhi will be wary of going ahead, especially given its plans of a joint naval exercise with Vietnam and Philippines in the disputed waters.
为什么强大的国家都会走向灭亡呢？古希腊、罗马帝国、不列颠帝国、美国。 因为他们都犯同样的错误，与原来使得他们成功的原则背道而驰。美国政府企图以庞大的开支和税收来摆脱严重的经济衰退，巨额的所谓刺激开支、庞大的医疗改革、政府接管私有企业、债务累累。当然，我们是他们的大债主。现在他们都得给我们干活。
Began during the Cold War has now become a military trade worth $25 billion. Russia is India's biggest defense supplier, mainly because of the weaponry's advantages.
They are hardy because Indian equipment needs to be utilized in temperatures which range from minus 50 degrees up in the Himalayas down to plus 50 degrees in the deserts of Rajasthan. Secondly, it is competitive in price, it is cheap. And thirdly, over the last 30-40 years, the military has got used to using Russian equipment, so the operators and the users are familiar with it.
The relationship is now moving into jointly developing weapons, such as the BrahMos cruise missile costing $300 million. India provides the guidance system and Russia the propulsion. It's the world's only supersonic cruise missile, which, its designers say, makes it almost invincible